Let's consider a digital assistant that will help you order a pizza online. And let's say this is you, and let's say this is the digital assistant. The conversation might go something like this. You can say, "Hey, I'd like a pizza." And the assistant might say, "Sure. What kind?" And then you might say, "Well, I like to have a veggie pizza." And then the assistant might reply with, "Okay. Same address." And then here, the user might reply with saying just yes, and the conversation would continue. At this point, the conversation is relatively simple. We have an intent from the user, and that can be mapped relatively directly to an action on this side. Now, under the hood, these actions might be quite involved. After all, we're saying okay over here, which means that we've confirmed that the veggie pizza is something that the user can order. But right now, it's still relatively simple because there's a somewhat direct mapping from the intent to the action. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. So let's now have a look at how this conversation might have gone different. So let's now say the user said, "I'd like a pizza." The assistant still replied with "Sure, but what kind?" But now the user, instead of answering the question, asks a different question. "By the way, are you a human?" And in these situations, the assistant should always clarify that they are not a human. So in this case, we could have something that says, "No, I'm a digital helper." So this is a good reply from the assistant, but it would be even better if the assistant also recognizes that there's still a follow-up question to ask. So immediately after this action, the assistant should say, "But to clarify, what kind of pizza would you like?" And note that on this side we still have intents, and on this side we still have actions, but it's not a direct one-to-one follow-up. And in fact, for the digital assistant to recognize that this indeed is the correct action to take, we need to know more than just the previous response from the user. We need to look at the history. So when you're making a good assistant, you need more than just intents and actions. What you'll also need is some sort of a policy. And it's this policy that will determine how the story between the user and the assistant will develop. And inside of Rasa, we've developed our own policy called TED. And in this video, I would like to explain to you how it works. So let's talk about what a policy is supposed to do. If I look at the previous example, then you could say, well, the conversation starts by someone saying, "I'd like a pizza." And there's lots of features that we can parse from it, but let's say that this is the first thing that's being mentioned. So there are some features that we're going to parse from that utterance, and those are the features known at that time slot. Well, then the assistant has to reply with an action. And the first action is that we will inform ourselves about the pizza, but after that, the action is that we have to listen. Then the user will reply, and then we get another set of features. Because in this case, the user is saying, "By the way, are you a human?" And these features will need to be incorporated to again make another action. And the job of a policy is to take features that are on the left-hand side and transform them into actions on the right-hand side. And if we then think, well, what kind of features do we have at our disposal? Well, then there's a few. If I just look at the utterance, "I'd like a pizza," then there's a couple of features that we can parse here. In particular, odds are that we have an intent classifier as well as an entity extractor at our disposal here. And we can use those to come up with a numerical representation of features. So let's pretend that this is a system that only has a few intents, and that we can represent that as a one-hot encoded array. So there's a bunch of zeros and one 1 here, and this is the output from a classification model. Text goes in, and a classification comes out. And the policy doesn't necessarily care about the classifier, we just assume that it's a reasonably good one. And let's say that in this case, there's an intent that the person wants to order something, and that's one of the 4 intents here. And let's say there's also an entity here. And again, this is the same story as with the intent. It's a model that we have that detects an entity. And let's say that the entity here is pizza. Theoretically, we could be ordering more than one thing here, so entities don't necessarily have to be one-hot encoded, but again, it's just a numerical representation. And inside of Rasa, we also have a notion of something that's called a slot, which is like an entity in lots of ways, but a slot is long-lived. So that could be, for example, the address of the user. The idea of a slot is that it's something that will last a long time in our memory. An entity is something that's in the current utterance, while a slot is something that's long-lived. Slots can also be configured to have a certain type, which allows us to encode them in different ways, but for all intents and purposes, we'll just assume a binary vector here. And what I can also do is I can say, well, let's look at the previous action. That's also something that I can represent numerically. And let's say that there are 5 possible actions then, and this could be a representation, and this could represent the listen action. Because before the user said, I'd like a pizza, the assistant needed to be listening. So what I can now do is I can convert all of these arrays of features into a single array, and I can get them in a single array by just concatenating everything. And you might recognize that there's a mapping, so we just put the intents on top, the entities below that, and we just concatenate everything to put it in a single array. And then I could say that this is the features that I know at time step t. And what we're interested in is we're trying to map that to the action that we have to take at that time step. And that will be another array. An array that looks like this. Note, by the way, that the action I've got over here, the previous action, that will be the action at time step t-1, but this is a representation, and I'm interested in finding a system that can do this well. But we're allowed to look back a bit further, because at time step t, we don't just have this array at our disposal, we also had the array at the previous time step, as well as a time step before that. But I do want to have a system that's able to sometimes look back a little bit, but other times is able to look back many time steps. And that's because in a conversation, this might happen. That there's a chit-chat moment that we have to take care of, but then we have to revert to the main topic at hand. So we'll need a system that's able to correctly identify where the attention should go. And if you've seen previous videos in this channel, then you may recognize, hey, let's use a transformer for this. So let's say our conversation starts, and we have some features at our disposal. Well then, let's pass those along to a transformer. Then in the case of having just one input, nothing much is going to happen, but in general we should expect more contextualized features to come out. Let's see if we can use the star space trick here. These contextualized features, at some point I'm gonna have to hook them up to the action that I have. So you can imagine there's an actual action that should happen there, and that's a label that I have. So how can I connect these things together? Because they don't necessarily have the same shape. Because what I can do is I can have both features go through a dense layer, such that the output of both dense layers is the same shape, and then I can calculate a similarity. Now, let's suppose we do this for a whole bunch of features that are coming in. So let's say we have some new features, right? So that's the features that I have at time step 1. So that would include the previous action. Well, then I should have some contextualized embeddings coming out over here again. So let's repeat all of this. Well, then I hope you recognize that if I do this for the entire conversation, if I have labels, well, then I have all of these similarities, and I can combine them. And I can combine them in a single loss. And the amazing thing about that is that this will give us a gradient update. And that signal is going to update the dense layers as well as the transformer. And notice something that's actually kind of interesting about this. Previously, when we were training a transformer, we did it on text. But now we're using a very similar approach to not learn anything from a sequence of tokens, but we're doing it on a sequence of dialogue steps. But that also means we have to be a little bit careful. I think it's perfectly fine if at time step 3, I'm looking back and checking if I should put attention on time step 0. But during training, I don't want to have any attention at time step 0 looking forward to time step 3. That will be cheating. So I am tweaking this transformer a little bit. I'm going to make this a unidirectional transformer. And that means that I only look back, and numerically that means that all the attention towards the future, that's just going to be 0. That's how I solve that numerically. But with that one constraint, then all the keys, values, and queries in here can update. And then we have a system that's hopefully able to detect whether or not the previous utterance is relevant to the action I have to do now, or if I have to look back further. This is the basic idea behind TED. And you might recognize two main components here. We have the transformer over here, and we also have the idea from star space over here. And you also might recognize the similarities with the diet algorithm. Having said this though, let's check what happens if we not try to train this system, but if we try to make it predict. So let's say that we're about to predict, and the user has just said the first utterance. Then we'll have some features coming in on top. These features will be passed through the transformer, and what comes out is passed through a dense layer. On the other side, we're going to pass every action into the dense layer. By doing that, we can check which of the actions yields the best similarity that comes out of here. And what we do is we pick the action with the highest similarity. Once we've done that, we perform the action, and that means that we're going to have new features to put into our transformer. And in particular, note that the action that we chose is one of the features that's inside of this. That's added in as a one-hot encoded vector. Now the same thing will happen, like before, except this time, the transformer can have some of its attention look back to add a little bit of context. Again, we're going to put all the actions in on this side, and again, we'll make a comparison. We're going to pick the next best action, and then this action is now part of the features that come in on the other side. And as you can imagine, this process is going to repeat itself a whole bunch of times. Now at some point, you might wonder, well, are we going to keep on doing this forever? It's possible that we're going to have a very long sequence in our dialogue. And you might wonder, for resource reasons, do we want to have a transformer that just grows indefinitely? Or do we maybe want to keep the transformer somewhat small? So what you could do is you could say, well, let's have a transformer that is rolling over these conversations. So there might be a maximum size of the transformer, and we might say, you know what, let's move that down if we've reached a certain maximum. And this way we can keep the transformer size constant and have this just roll over the dialogue. So the size of this transformer is a hyperparameter, and if your assistant will have very short conversations and you're resource constrained, then it might be worth it to have a smaller transformer here, and that you might forget some of the conversation. That can be okay, but this is a hyperparameter for the system. Just like the number of attention heads, and you can also specify the number of transformer blocks here. But to wrap up, what I would like to do is just go back to our original example and show you what the transformer has done for us here that makes this a nice policy system. So let's go over the conversation that we started with one last time, and consider where the attention goes. When you say hey, the action should be to greet. Then the action here is to greet, that's extra information, and that's the second thing that happens in this sequence of conversation. After this, the assistant should recognize that we should start listening again. Because we're now listening, we have to wait until the user says something, and let's say the user says, I'd like a pizza. Then the assistant now becomes aware that we should prepare an order, and that means that we'll probably do a follow-up question like, hey, what kind of pizza? That's the action we'd have here now. And we've just asked the user a question again, which means we have to listen, but now suddenly the user asks, are you a bot? We now have to confirm that indeed we are a bot. So what's the information at this point in time that our system has to listen to? Well, it's not this "are you a bot" moment. That's something that's just been answered. Instead, the attention should go here. And that's why a transformer is nice here. The transformer can easily look back multiple steps to add context to what we are supposed to do now. And this is a nice thing to reflect on. The transformer is not being used here on text. It's being used on a sequence of events. And we like to think that the transformer is more appropriate for this because dialogues in general can have quick context switches. The alternative here is to use a recurrent neural network, like an LSTM, but these systems typically need a whole lot of data in order to look further back than just their neighbors. But by using a transformer here, we have a very flexible system with properties that we like. In the next video on TED, I'll show you how you can use it inside of Rasa.